What's up guys, welcome to Daily Refinement. Today's video we're going to go over a term that I coined called Reseller Fire. This is a form of reseller financial independence where essentially your store takes care of all your bills so you're free to do whatever you want to do. So I'm going to go over into the different kinds of Reseller Fire and let's just get straight into it. So all of the examples I use in today's video require you to be at reseller nirvana, which means that you buy and sell the same number of items per day. So keep that in mind as we're going through these examples. And if you are not selling and listing the same numbers a day, that's perfectly fine. I just call that a non-nirvana reseller, which means that you're listing more than you're selling. This particular situation means that you're sort of coming out of pocket to grow your eBay store, and that is a little bit of a dangerous position to be, where if you just wait for reseller nirvana to happen normally, like you just list one item until you sell one item a day, you'll be able to pay for two items in that example and continue to grow. So let's start with the regular non-nirvana reseller. This is where you're selling less than 1% of your inventory and you have less than $20 profit. So this is essentially like very slow sales and low profit per sale. Not necessarily where you want to be. A lot of eBay stores are like that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's a little bit of a slower way to make this work. Next would be the grind nirvana reseller. And this is where you're selling and listing the same number of items a day. So you're selling things quickly, but they're less than $20 profit per item. And again, nothing wrong with this model. It just requires a lot of grinding and a lot of hustle. That's why I call it the grind reseller nirvana model. It's perfectly fine because your store will just stay the same size. You'll churn through items a lot. Typically, these are people that buy from the Goodwill bins for $1 to $3 or garage sales, and they sell the items for between $15 and $20 plus shipping. Again, nothing wrong with that except for $15 to $20 items. If you discount them, sometimes they don't move faster. That's why we're suddenly moving into the reseller nirvana model, which I recommend, which is trying to find items to sell for more than $30. So when you're just starting to do this, you're not going to know how to do it. So I call this like a level 0 side hustle nirvana seller where you're trying to figure this out. So you want to sell items for $20 profit, but you don't know how. The very first level is level 1. So you should be selling one item and listing one item every day. And your total store size should be 100 items or less before you move on to level 2. So if you're just starting out and you want to learn how to do this, you need 100 items in your store that are good first. Before we talk about anything else, get 100 quality items in your store. Get rid of all the other items. So you guys know in my previous videos, I go over the sold method, which is how you move aged inventory. So in those videos, I go over how to get rid of all your old inventory that sucks. After they're all gone, don't buy those items anymore. Just focus on the great items that are $20 profit or more. Spend more time hustling. So in the beginning, level 1, this is pretty good for most people. In my opinion, if you have 100 items listed or less, you sell one a day at $20 profit, that's great. That's one listing a day going up. That's new. One listing a day that's sold, being shipped out. You're making $20 profit a day, 7 days a week, 30 days a month, 365 days a year. That's an extra $600 a month. That's a lot of money considering you're just listing one item per day. All day you're looking for a great item, coming home, listing it, and just replacing the item that's sold. You're actually going to be doing a lot better than a lot of resellers who are actually losing money. They might be buying 20 items, only selling 4, and they don't even cover the cost of those 20 items. But you're better off with a store with just 100 items in it, because all of them are good. All 100 items are $20 profit or more. You sell one, you end up being there. Now again, this is based on averages. Some people may have a few items under $20 in their store, but a few items over $50 profit in their store. Again, perfectly fine. This is based on averages. I just recommend you take your time. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 is just 1, 2, 3, or 4 items per day. If you can sell 5 items a day, I call you a professional part-time nirvana reseller. 5 a day at $20 profit is amazing. Most people can at least live on that. Maybe you don't have a comfortable lifestyle, but 5 a day times 20 is $100 daily profit. I consider you a professional part-time nirvana reseller. That's pretty good. Congratulations, you made it further than 99% of resellers who never get past this regular non-nirvana reseller. If you look at the typical reseller, they have 1,000, 2,000 items in their store and they have 1 to 5 sales a day. They're not supporting themselves and they have a huge store. But if you have 100 items and they're all good and you're selling at least one a day, you honestly made it so much further than most of the people listening right now. So once you're a professional part-time Nirvana reseller, doubling that to the point where you get 10 a day, I consider that full-time. So that looks like 3 hours a day looking, or 3 hours a day processing stuff. So as long as you can do 3 items an hour, I think that's very, very, very slow, but that's like you taking your time on everything. So it takes you do 3 per hour, and then 5 hours of looking for 10 items. So I already went over that model in a bunch of different videos on exactly how big your store needs to be and how long everything needs to take. But essentially, selling 10 items a day, I would consider you a professional full-time reseller. Now we're moving on to the Henry Nirvana reseller, which is somebody listing and selling 30 or more items a day. And this is a lot of money. This is you making $180,000 a year. This is a lot. You have a pretty big store, 3,000 to 6,000 items. You may have staff, you may not, but if you can keep your expenses under $1,000 a week, you can actually retire in 10 years doing the Henry Nirvana method, as long as you don't upgrade your lifestyle. So if you just, whatever your bills are right now, you follow the Nirvana method, you're most likely tripling the amount of money that you need. So your bank account's growing a lot. You put that money in the other assets. You don't even need to grow your eBay store. Just leave it between 3,000 and 6,000 items. Take all that money out, buy a couple of pieces of real estate, buy some stocks, call it a day. Henry Nirvana is like a powerful place to be. I've been there for a long time now. Selling more than triple my expenses has put me in a very different place. So my YouTube channel, my mentorship on Facebook is at patreon.com/the-resellerspodcast. It is to create a community of people who are sharing the best items they find, so we can all go out there and look for these things. Essentially, there is no shortage of $20 profit items. If you're talking about $50 or $100 or $2,000 profits, those are hard to find, but $20 profit items are not hard to find once you know what you're looking for. Once you develop an expertise for what to find, what to look for, different conditions, you figure out what's in your area. We go over all of that in the group. Once you know what you're looking for, finding a $20 profit item is pretty reasonable. And in our group, to get to where we want you to be, is to start in the side hustle Nirvana, which is just 1 item a day selling for $20 profit or more with 100 items or less. Small store, but great items. Okay, I'm going to go over these in a little bit more detail, and you can also review this on my blog at dailyrefinement.com. But essentially, when you're just starting, you want to learn how to create a route to find great items, pick items from your inventory system, like the one I have behind myself, shipping, prepping, pricing, photography, creating an inventory system, creating quality listings, how to get items to rank higher or lower, how to use promotions, how to reset to zero, how to put items away, how to manage your money. There's a lot to it. So you got to figure out how to manage your money, your savings, your taxes, your cash flow. This is all really important when you're running your own business. And honestly, reselling is the craziest godsend in the world because you don't need to invest any money to start. And before you buy the item, you can go to our Facebook group and post it. I did all my homework. I think this item is a great item. What do you guys think? People can confirm with you. You buy the item, go home, you make your listing, you optimize it the best you can, post it back in the group, and say, hey guys, is this optimized to sell right? And people will tell you, oh no, adjust the title. Oh no, adjust the photos. Until you get to the point where you have a perfect listing and a great item, and it costs you nothing. Essentially, you just get all that advice, you make your best listing, and then you continue to do that over and over and over again. Once you find something that works, please don't change. Just keep doing that over and over again until you reach 1 item selling with 100 items listed. Then go to 2, then go to 3, then go to 4. And at 5, you become a part-time professional reseller. And this is an example I put in the chat, or I put in the screen, which is, let's say that your spouse is making $2,000 a month and you want to contribute half. So for you, you would need to sell 3 items per day to contribute half, and that's 108 sold per month with 324 items listed. 324 items listed is like one shelf. The shelf behind me holds between 300 and 1,000 items, depending on what you're storing. Shoes a little bit less, clothes a little bit more because they're smaller. So part-time professional reseller is just 3 to 5 items a day. It's not a huge amount. People are thinking like they need massive stores with huge listing goals. Not really. You just need to find the right items and know how to strategically list them so that people can find them. Then when you double that, you become a professional reseller. nine to five professional reseller. And the way I dub this is like you can pay the bills, but there's no extra money at the end of the month. Let me know in the comment section below what level you are at. A lot of people are in this 9 to 5 section. I consider just paying your bills a D minus. That's just barely getting by. You don't want to just get by, because what happens if there's an emergency? It's going to wipe out the entire amount of money that you have. You can't just make what your bills are. I don't know, like for me, until I learned that that's not okay, because I'll never have an emergency fund. Honestly, it's complete news to me. I did not know you're supposed to make way more than your bills. Now that I know that, my whole life has been completely different, because I'm setting myself up with a plan to make way more than I need. So even if I fail, I can pay my bills, versus set your plan up to pay your bills, and when you fail, you go into debt. So next is Henry Reseller. And over the years I've been talking about this, the 7 years I've been talking about this on YouTube, I always come to the conclusion that 30 a day times $20 profit is like the most magical place in the world, because you're making 180 grand a year and you can do it by yourself. Shout out to Aaron in the group who is at this level right now. And of course, there's going to be a few items that sell below 20 and a few items that sell for more, but it'll average out to $20. And when you're making 180 grand a year, flipping stuff out of your house or out of a storage or out of a small warehouse, that's really insane, considering you don't have to talk to any customers in person. You didn't make any of the items, and you didn't market to any of the customers. That's gotta just ring so insanely in your mind right now that you didn't make it, you didn't find the customer, you don't have to talk to anybody, and you can still make that kind of money. Being a Henry reseller is obviously very rare. We only know in our group of almost 3,000 people, there's maybe only 50 people at this level. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but the difference between somebody just starting and in the side hustle and the people who are in the Henry level is usually just 3 to 5 years of experience in the same niche. So back to the regular reseller for just a moment. A regular reseller oftentimes has been selling on eBay for 20, 25 years at this point, and they're selling the same number of items as when they started. I actually just talked to a reseller today. He's been selling for 22 years. When I met him 22 years ago, when I was a teenager, I met this guy, and old childhood friend. At the time, he was selling one item a day. This is 22 years ago. We're in 2023, 22 years later, right? He's now selling half an item a day. He went from selling one item a day to one item every 2 days, because he essentially hasn't improved in 22 years. He has this similar kind of store, like mostly old items that no one is really looking for, and they're not listed correctly. They're not optimized. He doesn't regularly list, and the result is, in a much more competitive marketplace, it's gotten harder on eBay. He is the same seller as he was 22 years ago, and that's the majority of resellers that I meet. They don't improve. So I want to be in the camp of people improving and continuously getting better, because I don't know, the next crop of resellers might be super, super, super sharp. So I got to stay ahead of the curve. So now we get to my favorite part. Reseller Fire. This is where you actually save enough money and you invest it to the point where it pays your regular bills. Your regular bills, I would consider your mortgage and your monthly expenses. So as an example here, if you have $1.23 million invested and you get a 4% withdrawal rate, some people do 3%, but that means you're taking out $51,000 a year. And let's say the stock market is at 7%. That's where the 3% inflation comes into place, although it's been higher than 3% the last few years. You're taking out $51,000 a year, but the principal is staying the same. That's the idea. So in this example, you're reselling just for maybe health insurance or fun money or just some extra padding. You're just reselling for fun, but the extra money is nice. A lot of people in this position work at Starbucks or Costco part-time, get those health benefits, and I was just talking to my wife about this. I think I would rather work at Starbucks than start a resale business from scratch, because it takes a while to get going. When you work at Starbucks or Costco, you get paid 2 weeks after you start. But if you are a reseller, it could take you a couple of months to learn, right? Once you know how to do it, of course, maybe it's better to run your own gig. In fact, a lot of people who are retired, as weird as it sounds, they start a business. And I think that's perfectly awesome, because I think that everyone is living for some kind of purpose, and a purpose of having a business where you serve other people is a fantastic way to make your purpose into something that lasts a really long time. I think businesses are fantastic. They serve people, they provide a need or service that people need or want, and it's a beautiful thing. So Reseller Barista Fire is where you're just working for extra money. And again, here is where you live makes a huge difference. Because if you live in a high cost of living area versus a low cost of living area, you may not need $1.3 million to retire. If you're only spending $25,000 a year, you only need $600,000 to retire, which is not very much in the grand scheme of investing for 20 years or so, right? So Reseller Barista Fire is an amazing place to be because you're just reselling to earn extra money. Next would be Lean Fire. This is where you can pay your health insurance and you have a little extra money, but you're living sort of a simple and frugal and lean lifestyle. But you don't have to resell for money. Literally, the money that you're reselling for is purely disposable. It's just extra fun money. Then Chubby Fire is where you typically have $2 to $10 million in assets at this point. You're just reselling for disposable income. So like you can't buy anything you want, but like all the money you make from reselling is just extra. You really don't need that money, and mainly it's for entertainment purposes. And Fat Fire is where you can live it up in retirement and have any lifestyle you want. And typically you would need $10 million or more invested in assets for this to happen. And actually $10 million is considered ultra high net worth. There's not really any levels above that. Even if you have $1 billion, you're still considered ultra high net worth. 10 million and above, you can pretty much do whatever you want. So in this scenario, I'm just going to call it what I think it is, which is you're just reselling purely for fun. At the Fat Fire level, you do not need to resell for any income whatsoever. You could just donate all the money that you get because it makes no difference. I think that's not necessarily a bad place to be, because when you get a positive feedback from a customer, like, thank you so much for finding this item. I've been looking all over for it. I've been looking for 5 years for it. It really brings me back to my childhood. It's a gift that I gave my grandma that she'll cherish forever. These kinds of feedback you can get when you're selling online, especially on eBay, because you're finding cool stuff to sell people. And I think that when you get to the point where you're just working for fun or supplemental income, you just want to provide a service to other people, and finding amazing products is great. That's another reason why I want people to focus on $20 profit items, because those are generally things that have a much higher desire. Finding cheap items that you got for cheap or free, that's not really servicing a need like it is finding something cool. Finding a shirt with a Grateful Dead logo on it is better than a shirt with no Grateful Dead logo. Finding one that's vintage is cooler than that. Finding one that the band members wore is even cooler than that. Finding one that the band members wore and signed on stage, and they spilled their drink on it and they gave it to you, that's like the coolest thing ever, right? So in the group, we talk about selling things that are cooler than the regular things. So cooler means more profitable, more meaningful, and hopefully you guys, let me know in the comment section below what you think of my concept of Reseller Fire. But I aspire to be Fat Fire. I would consider myself, depending on where I live, between Barista Fire and Lean Fire, somewhere in that range. If I move to a lower cost of living area, I think I could just do this for fun. But because I live in a high cost area and I have 2 small kids, I ain't there yet. So appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time.